The floor was cold under my back and I could not feel my legs. Someone was screaming far away, though I think it was close, and my own blood was warm against my skin while the rest of me turned to ice. I remember counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 points of fire in my chest and side. I remember thinking, so this is how it ends. In a gas station parking lot, on a Tuesday. Because I could not just stand there and watch a child get hurt. Her name was Ilira. I did not know that then. I did not know anything then, except that she was small, and she was glowing faintly the way her people do when they are frightened, and she was standing exactly where the shots were going to land. I want to tell you how it started, because none of what came later makes sense without it. 6 months before that day, a transport ship had come down hard in the wheat fields outside our town. Not an invasion, nothing like the movies. It was a broken-down refugee vessel, limping away from a war on the other side of the galaxy, carrying maybe 40 of a species called the Thale. Thin, pale gold skin, large dark eyes, voices like wind through a door left open. They could not go home. They did not know if home still existed. Our town took them in, sort of. There was a shelter set up at the old high school gym. Cots and blankets and confused volunteers trying to figure out what these people could even eat. I went down there because I used to be an army medic before I got discharged, and old habits do not let go of you just because you want them to. I told myself I was just there to help with basic first aid. I told myself a lot of things. The truth is I had failed to save my own squad once, in a place I do not like to talk about, and some part of me thought if I could just save someone else, anyone else, it might even the scales a little. It never works that way, but you keep trying anyway. Ilira was the quiet one. Most of the Thale children stayed close to the adults, but she used to wander to the edge of the gym and stare out the window like she was looking for someone. She did not speak much English yet, and her translator collar kept glitching, which made her voice come out broken and strange, half her words and half a machine trying to guess at the rest. I used to sit near her, not talking, just being another quiet thing in the room. Sometimes that is all a scared kid needs. I did not know she was anyone important. To me, she was just a kid who had lost her home and did not know if her father was alive. The day everything changed started ordinary. I had driven into town to get gas and pick up a few things, and Ilira was there with 2 of the adult refugees, buying supplies for the shelter. I remember the sun was too bright and the air smelled like diesel and cut grass. I remember thinking it was a good day. Then a truck pulled up fast, and 3 men got out, and I understood immediately, the way your body understands before your mind catches up, that this was not a good day at all. There had been trouble in town before, rumors and comments and, once, thrown bottles. This was worse. These men had brought a gun. I do not know exactly what set it off. Maybe nothing needed to. Maybe it was just hate looking for a place to land. One of them raised the weapon toward the group, and Ilira, who did not understand the danger fast enough, froze exactly where she was standing. I did not decide to move. My body simply moved. I remember shouting something, I do not even remember what, and getting my arms around her, and turning so my back was toward the gun instead of her face. I remember the sound, which was not like the movies at all, sharper and flatter and wrong. I remember the impact, again and again, like being hit by something heavy that kept hitting. Then the ground, and the cold, and the counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I woke up 9 days later in a hospital bed with tubes in more places than I wanted to think about. A nurse told me later that I had technically stopped breathing twice on the way there, and that whoever pulled me into the ambulance and kept pressure on the wounds the entire ride probably saved my life as much as the surgeons did. I never found out who that was. I have always wondered. Ilira was not hurt. Not one mark on her. That was the only thing that mattered to me in that hospital bed. Staring at the ceiling, feeling like my whole chest had been rebuilt out of wire and pain. She was safe. Whatever it cost me, it was worth it, and I meant that completely, with no hesitation at all. The recovery took the better part of a year. I will not pretend it was easy. There were nights I could not sleep because sitting up hurt too much, and months where walking to the mailbox left me shaking. I had physical therapy twice a week in a building that smelled like rubber mats and antiseptic, and a therapist named Grace who used to tell me that healing is not a straight line, it is a spiral, and some days you circle back to where you started before you can move forward again. I did not believe her at first. Eventually I did. The Thale family came to see me twice while I was in the hospital, though I was barely awake for either visit. I remember Ilira's small hand on top of mine, and one of the adults, a tall woman with silver markings along her jaw, saying something in their language that the translator collar rendered as a soft chime rather than words. I did not understand it. I did not ask her to explain. I was too tired too full of pain medication, too focused on just getting through the next hour. When I was finally strong enough to go home, the shelter at the high school had already closed. The Thale refugees had been relocated, spread out across different cities as new housing and work programs opened up for them. I never got a proper goodbye. I told myself it did not matter. I had done what I needed to do, and that was enough. Life went back to something like normal, if you can call it that. I went back to my old job at the auto shop on the edge of town, the one owned by a friend of mine named Peter who had kept my position open the entire time I was recovering. No questions asked, no pressure to come back before I was ready. I fixed engines. I changed oil. I learned to work through the stiffness in my shoulder where one of the rounds had done permanent damage to the joint. I stopped setting an extra place at the table in my head for people I had lost. Life became small again, and quiet, and I told myself that quiet was enough. Years went by like that. I will not lie to you and say I thought about Elira every single day, because I did not. But she surfaced in my mind sometimes, usually late at night, usually when the weather changed and my old wounds ached with the pressure shift. I wondered if she remembered me at all. I wondered if she was safe, wherever she had ended up. I wondered sometimes what that strange chiming sentence from her guardian had actually meant. The wider world moved on too, in stranger ways than mine. Contact with the Thale, which had started as a quiet, awkward refugee situation in a handful of towns like mine, grew into something much bigger. There were treaties, there were trade agreements, there were news reports about a Thale home government re-establishing contact with Earth, something about a civil conflict finally settling after years of chaos. I read about it the way most people did, in passing, between headlines about local elections and weather warnings. It felt distant. It felt like it belonged to someone else's life. I had no idea it belonged to mine. The day it all came back started like any other. I was under the hood of an old truck, elbow deep in a stubborn alternator, radio playing something quiet in the background, when Peter came jogging out from the front office looking like he had seen something that did not make sense to him. "Daniel," he said, my name catching in his throat like he was not sure he believed his own words. "You need to come out front right now." I remember wiping my hands on a rag, more out of habit than urgency, and stepping out from under the awning of the shop into the parking lot. The sky over the whole town had gone quiet in a way. Skies do not usually go quiet. No birds, no wind, just a strange, heavy stillness, and then shapes descending through the clouds, smooth and silver and far too large for the small stretch of road outside our shop. I remember every car on the street had stopped moving. I remember people standing on the sidewalk with their phones raised, capturing something none of us had words for yet. 3 vessels landed in the empty lot across from the shop, careful and precise, without so much as disturbing the gravel around them. Panels folded open along their sides like flowers opening in reverse, and figures began stepping out in formation, dressed in clean, deliberate uniforms unlike anything I had seen in the news reports about Thale diplomats. These were not diplomats. These moved like soldiers, calm and exact, forming 2 lines that faced each other, leaving a clear path between them. I stood there with a wrench still in my hand, feeling every one of my old scars pull tight with tension, wondering if I was about to be arrested for something I did not understand, or worse, if something terrible was about to happen all over again. Then she stepped out from between the 2 lines. She was taller than I remembered, of course, because the last time I had seen her she had been a frightened child hiding behind me at a gas station. Her pale gold skin caught the afternoon light in a way that made the entire street go silent. Her eyes found mine across the parking lot immediately, as if she had been searching for exactly this face in exactly this place for a very long time. "Daniel," she said, and her voice was clear now. No broken translator collar breaking her words into fragments. Just her voice, steady and warm, carrying my name like it meant something important. I did not know what to say. I remember just standing there, the wrench slipping slightly in my grip, my mouth opening and nothing coming out. She crossed the parking lot alone, leaving her escort standing at a respectful distance, and when she reached me, she did something I was not prepared for at all. She knelt. Right there, on the cracked asphalt outside Peter's auto shop, in front of everyone watching, in front of every phone camera capturing the moment. She knelt down in front of me the way you would kneel before someone far more important than yourself. I told her to get up. I remember saying it more than once, feeling deeply uncomfortable, feeling like something enormous was happening, that I had no framework to understand. She did rise, eventually, but only after she had said something I will never forget. "You gave me every year I have had since that day," she said. "My people do not forget a gift like that. Some debts are not meant to be forgotten. Some debts are meant to be honored, publicly, completely, no matter how long it takes to find the person owed." It was only then, standing in that parking lot with grease still on my hands, that I learned the truth about who Illyra actually was. She had not been an ordinary refugee child at all. During the war that had displaced her people, there had been an attempt on her family's position of leadership, a quiet, dangerous conflict within the Thael ruling structure that most of the public never fully understood. To protect her, she had been smuggled out among common refugees, disguised as an ordinary child among many, sent to a distant, mostly unknown planet called Earth, specifically because no one would think to look for an heir to Thael leadership among frightened evacuees in a small American town. The tall woman with silver markings who had spoken to me in the hospital, the one whose words the translator had rendered as a soft chime, had been her guardian, and what she had said that day, Illyra now explained fully, was a formal oath. A vow that the debt of my life given for hers would be repaid in full, someday, by whatever family or government she represented, no matter how long it took to locate me. It had taken years, she told me, partly because records from that chaotic period had been incomplete, and partly because she had insisted on finding me herself, rather than sending representatives to do it in her place. I asked her why. I remember my voice was quieter than I meant it to be. Because you did not save me knowing who I was, she said. You saved a frightened child because it was right, with nothing to gain from it at all. That kind of choice deserved to be honored by someone who understood exactly what it meant, not by paperwork and formal envoys. Word spread through the town almost instantly, and within hours it had spread much further than that. News crews arrived by evening. People I had not spoken to in years were suddenly calling to ask what had happened, what it meant, whether I was in some kind of trouble or whether I was about to become unimaginably wealthy. I did not know how to answer either question honestly, because the truth was I did not fully understand it myself yet. Illyra stayed in town for 3 days. She insisted on staying at a modest guest house rather than anything more elaborate her escort suggested, and she spent much of that time simply talking with me, filling in the years I had missed. Her people had, in fact, found some measure of peace after the conflict that had displaced them. Her father had survived, though not without difficulty, and leadership within the Thael government had eventually passed toward a structure that included her as a central figure once she came of age. She told me about her life since that day at the gas station, the years of learning what it meant to lead a people who had lost their home once already and could not afford to lose stability again. She told me she thought about that afternoon often, about the 7 impacts that had knocked me to the ground, about the way I had not hesitated even for a second. She said it had shaped how she thought about protection, about leadership, about what it meant to actually care for people rather than simply govern them. On the 3rd day, in the quiet of Peter's shop after hours, with the lights dimmed and the tools put away, she made me an offer. She said her government wished to grant me a formal position of honor, a title that would carry weight not just symbolically but practically, along with more resources than I would know what to do with in several lifetimes. She said I could have a place among the stars if I wanted it, a permanent seat of recognition within a growing alliance between our two peoples. I turned most of it down, not because I did not appreciate it, and not because I did not understand the weight of what she was offering. I turned it down because sitting in that quiet shop, listening to her talk, I understood something clearly for the first time in years. I did not save her because I wanted a reward. I did not spend a year rebuilding my body because I was hoping for a title. I had done what I did because it was right, and turning that into a transaction, even a generous one, would have cheapened something that had never needed to be complicated in the first place. What I did accept was smaller, and in a way much bigger. I accepted her friendship openly and permanently, an understanding that our two peoples would have a genuine bridge between them because of what had happened outside a gas station on an ordinary Tuesday years earlier. I accepted an open door, quite literally, an arrangement that meant I could visit her people's worlds if I ever wanted to, and that any of her people would always find welcome through my door in return. She also gave me something I had wondered about for years without ever expecting an answer. She told me who had pulled me into that ambulance and kept pressure on my wounds during the ride to the hospital. It had been one of the Thael adults from the shelter, a quiet man named Adric who had medical training from before the war, and who had refused to leave my side until paramedics physically took over. I never got the chance to thank him properly back then. Illyra arranged, before she left, for me to finally do exactly that. The day she departed, the same silver ships lifted quietly from the lot across from the shop, and the town went back to whatever ordinary meant afterward, though nothing about our small stretch of road ever quite felt ordinary again. People still ask me about it, sometimes, when they learn the story. They ask if I regret it, taking those 7 hits for a stranger's child I barely knew. I always tell them the same thing. I would do it again without a single second of hesitation. And not because of what came afterward, not because of empires or titles or silver ships descending from a quiet sky. I would do it again because in that one instant, with a scared child standing exactly where danger was about to land, there was only ever one choice that made any sense to me at all. The scars are still there, 7 small marks across my chest and side, faded now, softer than they used to be. I do not think of them as wounds anymore. I think of them as proof that sometimes the smallest, most ordinary choice a person makes on the most ordinary of days can ripple out further than they will ever be able to imagine, reaching all the way to the stars and coming back around, years later, kneeling quietly at their front door.